What's up, guys? Welcome to TFGoose Gaming. I'm TFGoose here with Vendetta, and this is the final, the last, the finale of our Hearthstone series. Yes, that too, and several other versions of that word. Today we're covering the Warlock for the last one in our deck builder series. Again, a quick recap on what we're doing here. We're just going to show you a couple of decks, one sort of low mid-budget and one high budget. The low at the beginning of the video, and then the high a little bit later. You can see the annotations around before there if you wanted to jump to those certain spots. And basically this is just cards that we have, and you're going to see that that's not a whole lot for the low part of the deck. So the high budget deck has a lot more cool stuff for the Warlock though. So take these with a grain of salt, get some gold, complete some quests and stuff. Don't try destroying the ladder with these, or at least not with the low budget version. I can't guarantee how awesome that'll be, but the high budget one works pretty well, I think. So anyway, so we'll get moving on here with the low budget deck. The first card here that we're going to talk about is Soulfire.
Yeah. It discards a card, but it does 4 damage to anything. It is hard removal. Yeah, basically. Or you can use this to rock your opponent's face, you know, if you really want to. But make sure that you're about ready to kill them when you're doing that. You know, otherwise, just be mindful of the discard thing. That's why it costs nothing. So, and another Warlock card after that is a nice one for card draw, Mortal Coil. This one's unique in that if you manage to actually kill something when you do the 1 damage, then you get a card. So you want to try and save these for cards that either have 1 health, or when you've managed to bring something down, then you can go ahead and pop this sucker and pull out another card and thin your deck a little bit. So good one to have there. Moving on from there, we've got sort of a kind of a standard card for this deck, right? Yeah, it's the Flame Imp. It's a 3/2, but it does 3 damage to your hero. But it's only 1 cost, so you can't really go wrong there.
Yeah, and you know, the Warlock's sort of all about doing damage to himself or taking damage in order to do damage to the opponent. So the key is to stay ahead of the game on that one. And after that guy, we've got another Warlock card, the Voidwalker. This guy is just a really obviously low-cost taunt. You can get him out really early. He can be buffed if you carry cards like Demon Fire, which I don't think we actually do in this deck, but we'll cover that one in the high-budget deck. But and also, he's just nice to be able to kick out early and cause a distraction on the board. And then we do have actually one of my favorite cards after him, which is just a standard card, right?
Yeah, it's the Worgen Infiltrator. It's a 2/1 stealth creature. This card is really good because A, it's only 1 mana, and 2, it trades for a lot of 3/2s, if not all of them.
Yeah, exactly. This is a really, if it's a 3/2, it'll probably trade for it. Yeah. A lot of 2-drop minions, I think, is where we're going with that. But yeah, this is great because it's hiding. You know, it's not going to get removed by your opponent until you decide you want to do something about it, or they use some sort of AoE type thing. So really nice card there. And moving on from there, we got a few of our normal cards that we kind of throw in every deck. Starting out with the Acidic Swamp Ooze. This guy is just a 2-mana 3/2 that destroys a weapon. We love carrying these just because they're nice to take down weapons whenever you run into them, and otherwise it's just a nice card. And then speaking of excellent cards after that, another personal favorite. Yeah,
it's a 3/2, can't be targeted by spells or hero abilities. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely great. Another perfect example of a card that can't be hard removed. It's got to be AoE or some random effect, or the opponent targeting it with a weapon, or the preferred method, a creature. So excellent card there. And then we have your favorite card after that, I believe, which is the Knife Juggler. This is just a fun card to get out, and it, like we said before on a couple of other ones, it almost has taunt written on it because it seems everyone hates this card.
Yeah, they go after it like with a vengeance, and that 1 damage is more annoying than anything, but it's kind of funny because people will make an exerted effort to get rid of this card.
Yeah, they really, really want to drop it. So, and then back to some Warlock stuff. We've got a little more hard removal, right?
That's right, Shadow Bolt. This does 4 damage. I want to say 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, we're not looking at the card. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's 4 damage, but it's just to a minion. That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. So we got to be careful about that. You can't target the hero or anything with that one, but still good for removing minions. And moving on from there, though, we have another favorite of ours, the Harvest Golem. You just can't go wrong with this card. It almost always gets a 2-for-1 just because of its effect, and you have to love it. I don't know. If you don't love it, then I want to know why. So, and then more standard stuff after that, right, with the next one.
Yeah, Shattered Sun. This is one of your personal favorites. 3/2 gives a buff of a 1/1 to your creature. Excellent card for 3 mana. It's just a good solid creature. That's why we have 2 of them in here.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be a little more solid back when it was 3-3. It caught a little bit of a nerf for 1 health, but the buff still makes it worth it in this deck, especially when you don't have a lot of other cards. It's a great budget option. As is another card here, since we're going kind of rushy with this deck, the Wolf Rider. Very simple. This is a 3 mana, missile, basically. You really most of the time just cast this card when there's something on the screen with 3 health and you want it dead. And you fire this guy at it, you kill itself instantly. But if it manages to survive, if you can get this thing out and protect it in some manner or buff it, then great, So it's just nice to have that. And then we got our board clear after that.
That's right. Hellfire does 3 damage to everything.
Yeah, everything. You, me, them, possibly some trees. You never know. So keep that in mind. Again, the Warlock is pretty sloppy with damage. They don't care. They'll take some to do some. It's pretty much the normal thing. And then Ye Old Yeti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4/5s. We got 2 of them in this deck just because they're awesome. And again, it's a super, super strong minion. So why not run 2?
Yeah, exactly. This is a great card to put in pretty much any deck. You just can't beat this thing. I mean, it doesn't do anything awesome, but it's awesome in that it has 4 attack and 5 health for 4 mana. So what do you want? Back off. But with a card with a little bit more utility is the Dark Iron Dwarf here. I've just been leaving these in my decks, these low-budget versions, even though it caught a nerf. Honestly, I like it just fine. Normally if you're going to buff something on your side, you're going to do damage with it right now. Otherwise, the nerf, quote, makes it so you can actually pull it out when you don't have any minions. Even if you had to buff the opponent, well, it's going to go away at the end of the turn anyway, so who cares, So it ends up being a pretty good card still for the cost. Yeah. And then after that, yes, my lovely.
Yeah, Defender of Argus. 2/3 gives taunt and +1/1 to both sides of wherever you plop this guy.
Yeah, fantastic card. It wins games. It changes the dynamic. This is a card that will totally destroy opponents' plans. They could have out planned in their head what they're going to do the next turn. This card changes the game. Very, very, very strong card. One of my personal favorites for sure. And then a card just to kind of screw up your opponent's plans again with their own minions is the old Spellbreaker. You don't see this as much anymore, but actually I think we're going to start seeing a return of it, especially since, I don't know if you even saw it today, man, with the launch of the game, they nerfed Tankmaster Overspark.
Yeah, I did see that,
yeah. Makes it so he can only target things by randomness. So I think Silence is going to be coming back a little bit in sort of a way here with Constructed. So this guy's great for that, and we already have him here, so beautiful. And then another strong creature after that that's just kind of neutral. One of our great ones here, Azure Drake, right?
Yeah, Azure Drake. He's 4/4, gives you +1 spell power, as well as draws you a card.
Yeah, you gotta love a card that replaces itself. So it already is excellent for that, and then you get a pretty solid body with it as well that has some spell power. So all around a really good card. And then after him, we've got the old Silverhand Knight. We throw this in several of our decks as well, just because you get a lot of stats for not that much mana. That's the definition of a great card. It splits up. So it's a couple of different targets for your enemy. I personally like that one a lot. And then last couple ones here for this deck to round it out. A favorite of many, many people, even post-nerf, Argent Commander, right? This guy's great.
Yeah, it's a 4/2 with Charge and Divine Shield. Love this card.
Yeah, fantabulous, does work. And that's why we got him here. And then rounding up the deck completely here, the last card slot is the old Stormwind Champion. Threw him in here just because we have a lot of early game and mid game creatures, and this is a card that's great to buff everything up and kind of be that final problem on the board for your opponent. So that rounds out the low budget deck, and there it is for you. You can take a peek and screenshot that or whatever you want. And otherwise, we're going to move on to the high budget version now and see what we can do with Ye Old Handlock. Okay, so the high budget version here. This is a pretty popular deck, honestly, but we've been playing with it for a while.
Yeah.
But it's one of the more popular Warlock decks. It's called the Handlock deck. And basically, it's kind of a stall tactic deck to get to the late game so you can pull out some big crushing minions. But it's a lot of fun, so we'll take you through it here. It starts off the same way as the previous deck, right, with a Soulfire.
That's right. We got 2 of them this time.
Yeah, this is just here to be a problem eliminator or a finisher for your opponent. The thing is, you really want to collect cards with this deck, so using it too early isn't a good idea. It's actually okay to take some damage with this deck, so just hang on to these for big problems. And the next card is something we didn't have in the previous deck, that's Corruption. This basically just marks a card for death. You know,
Yep.
The next time your turn comes up, that card will die. You know, so basically it makes your opponent do something with it. You really only want to use it in a situation where, you know, you want the card gone, but you don't necessarily want to take care of it yourself. But the caveat is you got to wait a turn. So kind of strange, but it can be a cheap way to get something out of the game. And moving past that, we got another familiar face here with Mortal Coil, right?
Yeah, that's right. It does 1 damage, and if you happen to kill the opponent, or not opponent, but the minion, it draws you a card. A theme with the handlock is you want to be drawing as many cards as you can fit in your hand.
Yeah, exactly. But always keep in mind you're going to be drawing another card next turn. So you don't want to ever have 10 in your hand because then you're going to waste one when you draw one. But keep that in mind and always be looking for opportunities to fill up your hand more. And then moving past that, we talked about this card in the low-budget version of the deck. We didn't have it, but this Demon Fire. This is great as removal or as a buff. So if you target any demons that you might have in your deck, then this would actually buff them up. You know, but in the sense that if you don't have any demons, it's still good to just, you know, take something out for 2 damage. Or maybe even 3 if you got some spell power in there, which you might have with the next card.
Yeah, Blood Mage Thalnos. It's a 1/1, gives you plus spell damage, as well as replaces itself once it dies.
Yeah, great card. This has picked up a lot of support in the last couple of months in the game. It was one of those sleeper ones that nobody was playing for a while, and then all of a sudden everyone realized how awesome it is, because you get that really super cheap spell power that comes out of nowhere, and then again, yeah, the card, you know, replaces itself, and no one blows a silence on Blood Mage Thalnos.
No.
You know, they just don't do it. So it's always going to replace itself pretty much. So really nice card. And then the sort of the poor man's version of that card is the next one, the old Kobold Geomancer.
That's right. It's
yeah.
It's a 2/2. It gives you a little spell damage. We have a lot of spells in this deck with Soulfire, Corruption, or not Corruption, but Mortal Coil, Demon Fire already.
Drain Life. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff coming too. Yeah. Yeah, so this card's great for that, and obviously it's not quite as good as Blood Mage because it doesn't replace itself, but still, you know, it's a little bit tougher than Blood Mage too, so you can get a little minion out there to help you out. And then if you get in real trouble and you do start need to recover a little life, then we've got the Drain Lives in here as well, right?
That's right. It just adds a little bit utility, because the problem with the handlock deck is sometimes you get real low on health real fast, and which is fine in some situations, but other times you're going to need some extra life. So that's why we've got 2 of these guys in here.
Yeah, just as sort of a recovery tactic, and you can even, if you're having problems using this deck, you can even swap out something else to maybe put like an Earthen Ring Farseer or something in here to even give yourself a little more life recovery if necessary. But most of the time it wasn't for us. If it gets to the late game, you're pretty much going to win.
Yeah.
So, and then back to more familiar faces here, the old Shadow Bolt. Again, this is just 4 damage, hard remove on a minion. You know, it's meant to just rock damage on minions, and it cleans things up quite nicely for 3 mana, and it's great for that. And if things are really a problem, then the sort of soft get rid of everything version is this card here, Hellfire, and later we've got a much more horrible version of it. That's awesome. But yeah, this is the same as before, guys, just 3 damage to everything on the board. Most of the time that's going to clear up anything that you're having to deal with, and especially early to mid game. So we keep a couple of these as well. And then we start kind of getting into the bread and butter of things with the next card here, the Twilight Drake.
Yeah, again, going back to that card draw we were talking about earlier, the idea is if you have a really nice full hand, this Twilight Drake is going to be beautiful. It's going to be like a 4/8, a 4/9, hopefully, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you see one of these in your opening draw, you know, then you're definitely going to keep it, and you're just going to build towards putting this guy out on the board and just keep drawing cards every hand. Use your power until you can summon this guy and kick him out, and he'll be a really big creature nice and early. So really good for that. And then a fun creature after that, one of my favorites just because it's so interesting, the Faceless Manipulator. This is a card we've featured in a couple other decks, but it just makes a perfect copy of whatever you target. That includes its buffs, its damage, everything about it. So with some of the other cards that we have coming, it can be excellent to use this guy on one of them, or if one of your opponents gets something out pretty ugly, you know, before you have anything great, you can use this to even the score. So really cool card there. And now into the harder removal versions. The old Siphon Soul, right?
Yeah,
this is nice.
Yeah, I actually really like this card a lot because it straight up destroys any enemy minion and gives you 3 health. I love this card. It's 6 mana, so it's kind of hefty in terms of cost, but it destroys it.
Yeah, it's great. It's the most expensive absolute hard removal in the game that's not just doing damage, that just switches it off. But it is that way because it is hard removal, period, and it also gives you health. So, and again, in this deck, you're going to be burning up your health. So it helps to have a little bit more healing in there, and this card certainly does that. And then after that, another kind of fun utility card is the Black Knight here. We're starting to get into the legendaries area. This card's great just because it switches off a taunt, and taunt is starting to become much more prevalent these days, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So this card is great to pack and just pull it out. Try not to use it unless your opponent pulls a taunt. If he does, though, it's horrible. It's such a switch when you pull this thing out on the board. It's great. And then moving past that one, we have probably the best looking card in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it has the best effect. It's Twisting Nether. You completely wipe the board.
Yeah, and with style.
Yeah.
With some serious style. Very, very cool, but you don't want to use this unless your opponent just has a massive board advantage on you, which by turn 8, if things haven't gone your way with your draw, maybe that's what's happened. Hopefully not, but if it has, then you have this nice get out of jail card right here. You drop this, clear their board, and then hopefully you have one of these next few cards waiting around to fill the space. And certainly if this next guy's here, you're having a lot of fun. Right?
Yeah, that's right. We got Ragnaros the Fire Lord, 8/8. Targets a random enemy, or actually a random creature on the enemy side, or the hero himself, does another 8 damage. Love you.
Yes, personal favorite of Vendetta. It's got the V stamp of approval on it for sure. Does work, and everyone hates seeing this card dropped against them. They just hate it because it's an instant problem. And you can follow that up, if you have it, with one of these next few cards. First being Alex Straza here. This guy is just kind of a neat utility. You can reduce your opponent's health to 15, or you can bring your own health up to 15, depending on the situation and where you're at. It's not the best card for catching up from when you're really getting destroyed by the board, because honestly, by turn 9, doing 15 points of damage even in one turn isn't really that hard.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think this is more of an offensive card. You want to hurt the enemy and put a nice big chunky creature on the board. But it does its job well for that. And maybe in a pinch, if you got the right minions out, then bringing yourself up to 15 isn't a horrible thing either. But the far cooler way to bring yourself to 15 is the next card.
Yeah, Lord Jiraxis.
Yes. This is great. Home of excellent YouTube videos. Lord Jiraxis. Seriously, look some up. Look up You Face Jiraxis. Great video there. But this one's fun. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You replace your hero with Jiraxis and get that awesome hero power of spending 2 mana to bring out a 6/6 Infernal. That's just ridiculous.
And a 3/15 weapon.
Yeah, 3/8.
Or you're right, 3/8.
Yeah, 3/8 weapon. 3/8 weapon with 15 health. So this guy does work. He's a lot of fun pulling out. And then after that, we just got a couple more here. We've got Ysera, which we've used before. This card is just fantastic for the dream cards that you get, and they change games. Typically, if you pull out Ysera and you live for a couple of turns, and she lives for a couple of turns, the game's over.
Yeah.
Because you're going to start collecting these dream cards that are ridiculous, and they're just uncounterable. And then lastly here, we got the couple of giants, right? We started with the Mountain Giant.
Yeah, we got 2 of these guys. These are fantastic early game because you're going to have a lot of cards. The soonest you can get him out is turn 4, and there's nothing more satisfying than dropping a Mountain Giant on your
turn 4.
Yeah, on your opponent's face on turn 4.
Yeah, really, really fun. It's great to pull these guys out early or late, and great card. And then, of course, if you are soaking up a lot of damage, that just makes this last card all the easier to pull out. That's the the Molten Giant. Same deal, 8/8, and if you bring out 1 or 2 of these guys, especially if you want to copy it with a Faceless Manipulator, very intimidating for your opponent. So that's it, guys. That's the high budget version of the deck, and hopefully, if you put together this one, you probably put together a pretty impressive deck. But this is a really fun one. Give it a shot. Other than that, that wraps up the Deck Builder series. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. And check out the few other Hearthstone videos we've got, as well as a lot of other games on the channel here. So browse around and let us know if there's anything else you want to see. Thanks for stopping by.